Thank you for joining us, and we got Kristen with Diversified Crop Insurance Services that's going to run through the profit matrix to kind of give you guys an idea of better on how to use it, because it's a wonderful tool. So, Kristen, you go right ahead.
As Tom said, my name is Kristen Mosel. I'm with Diversified Crop Insurance Services. I'm in our training department, which basically means I have the pleasure of working with agents like Tom and producers like yourselves to talk about the tools that Diversified has, as well as just crop insurance in general. Here's my contact information. If you should have any questions after today's webinar, you are more than welcome to reach out to me via phone or email, and we can definitely help you out along those lines. As Tom said, we're going to be talking about the profit matrix here today. And what the profit matrix does in a very high overview is it combines a producer's input costs, crop insurance, and grain marketing into one tool, and basically provides a way to look at the profitability scenarios for your operation. It's a very customizable tool, and we'll be going into the system here today to actually take a look at it and create a scenario. Some of the key outcomes of the profit matrix are, of course, that it displays our farm profitability. And like I said, it's very customizable. It's a tool that can be updated throughout the year as cost or pricing scenarios might change. It's also a great tool to take a look at the illustration of a crop insurance policy. So we'll be able to easily identify where an indemnity might be paid, as well as take a look at different policy types and different coverage levels very quickly and easily. And probably the most beneficial aspect for me for the profit matrix is it really does help us to build and execute a grain marketing plan and a revenue plan for a producer. You'll see that we'll be able to take a look at break-even levels very easily and kind of hopefully target some marketings down the road that would help your operation. So those are the key items that we're going to talk about today. I am going to move into the live system here now. You should be seeing a blue and white screen here, and this is what we call our Ag Profit Oracle. So at Diversified Services, this is where the Profit Matrix tool would be housed. And I'm going to go ahead and go right into our Profit and Super Matrix tool. When I do this, I am able to select myself to create a matrix under. As producers, you would be able to have access to this tool, and we can get it onto your home computers to go ahead and enter your information. Once you would do that, we'll circle down here to the left-hand side. This is where you can select the crop that you would like to build a scenario for. I know I'm in the Minnesota area. We've got probably a lot of corn and soybean production up there. So I'm going to go ahead and select corn today and go ahead and hit the Add button. Once I hit that Add button, you can see that we've actually moved, from Select Matrix to Edit Parameters. So this blue toolbar across the top is how we navigate within the Profit Matrix tool. This first screen that popped up is what I like to call kind of our header screen. So it's where we can enter the basic information about our operation. We can change the description of our matrix. I'm going to leave this corn matrix 2018, and I'm just going to go ahead and label this Minnesota for today. You can select the different crop years that you'd like to build a matrix for. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at our 2018 crop year, so the crop that's going to be put in the ground here this spring. We'll go ahead and select our state. And I'm going to use Brown County here for this morning. As I input that basic state, year, state, and county information, it does update what type of crop insurance information I can add in. I'm going to go ahead and...
Kristen,
yeah.
Is it okay if we just use Freeborn County? Is that okay? Just because that's where we're at. Is that okay? And even though that it doesn't mean much, that's fine. So, okay, thank you.
Okay. Not a problem. And please feel free to throw in tidbits like that as we're going if nothing looks quite accurate to your scenario. I'm going to go ahead and select keep us as a non-irrigated practice and leave our type as grain. What you'll see next are our options. So these would be crop insurance options that you might elect on your policy. If I hover over them, we may or may not be very familiar with exactly what YA might stand for, but if I hover over that, it does tell me that that means the yield adjustment option. Tom, do you have any suggestions for options that you want to elect?
Do the YA and YC. Every one of my clients has that. Yep.
Okay. I can update my acres then. If we knew exactly our acres amount for this crop, we could put that there. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 100 for today. The one thing we don't want to do with this tool is we do not want to change this to 1 acre, only because it won't allow our premium discounts for a minimum amount of acres. So I am going to leave that at 100 for today. Just below that, you'll see we have our projected price and volatility sections. Currently, we're sitting about right around a $3.94 price for crop insurance and about a 15% volatility. I'm going to go ahead and leave those there. I can override those if I think that those are going to be a different value. And then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and uncheck include farm bill fields. It just makes a little bit cleaner quote here. So I'm going to go ahead and not include our farm bill fields for today. The one thing I did skip over is close to the top here, there's this disable quoter button. And what that means is once we actually get into the matrix and look at our scenarios, it's going to automatically pull in our crop insurance premium quotes. If I were to disable that quoter, what it's going to do is it's going to allow me to enter in exactly what my crop insurance premium would be. The quote that pulls in while we're in the profit matrix is fairly accurate. It's going to be pretty accurate if you have steady yields across most of your operation. Where you might want to disable your quoter is if you've got variable yields where your premium might move around a little bit more. You may want to enter that in manually instead of letting the profit matrix estimate what that quote would be. I'm going to go ahead and leave it unchecked and make sure that we're still using that quoter within the actual matrix. So once I have this basic header information entered, I'm going to go ahead and hit my green Update and Proceed to Profit Matrix button. Anywhere that you see green buttons within the matrix, it's generally consider those like a save and move on to the next piece type of action. So those green buttons are how we update the information that we've input into the tool. So as you can see here, this is kind of the meat and potatoes of our profit matrix. And it looks like we've got quite a bit going on, so I don't want to get too bombarded with some of this. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit though. I really like to think of our profit matrix as having those 3 different sections. So when we first kicked off the call, I said that this tool combines input costs, crop insurance, and grain marketing. So our input cost is really this left-hand section over here. And as you can see in this left-hand section, we have a number of different input areas that we can add in. The matrix does pull in a predetermined estimate of input costs. All of them can be updated. If I thought my fertilizer wasn't $170, for example, and maybe it's $150 per acre in your area, I can go ahead and update any of these numbers. You can see as I scroll down and get about halfway through the screen here, I have this crop insurance piece. That is where you could manually enter in your premium. Otherwise, we'll see this number actually update as we enter information into the tool with the different policies and coverage levels that we elect. Right now it's sitting at 0 because I haven't elected my crop insurance. And then down here at the bottom, it does sum our costs. I'm going to go ahead and change this back to 170, but I welcome any input if this $660 figure isn't accurate or realistic for the scenario. I'm happy to update these numbers.
Do you guys got any input on that? Of anything there? Gentlemen? Is it Craig and Dennis that's on?
Yeah, it looks like Craig, Dennis, and we also have Mike joined us.
Oh, Mike is here too? Anybody got any ideas of what they want to put in those numbers, or just leave them as is?
No, I think just leave them as is.
Okay.
Okay, great.
The one thing that will change is let's do the farm-weighted APH, but we haven't got there yet, Kristen, but why don't we use like 200 for that number?
Great.
Okay, when you get there.
Perfect. Well, that was actually exactly where we're going, Tom, so thank you for that.
Okay, I figured.
This middle section, as Tom alluded to, is our crop insurance area. So our first button up here at the top is where we'd enter in the APH. I'm going to go ahead and enter that 200 bushels in. If you have if you have a trend adjustment on your yield, we can go ahead and enter that trend adjusted APH as well and check this box. Should I leave that blank for now, Tom?
Yeah, we'll just use the 200 because that's probably more
okay.
in the area where these guys are going to be at. So, yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. Okay, so we've updated this to 200. I do have some county information just available to me. There's nothing that I need to do here, especially if I'm not looking at a county plan. But then this last section here is where I'm going to go ahead and enter in my crop insurance. From the drop-down, I can select my plan. I'm going to go ahead and select a revenue protection plan. And Tom, would enterprise unit be the best election?
Go enterprise unit, yeah.
Okay. And we'll go ahead and select our coverage level as well on 80 or 85%, I'm assuming.
What do you guys want to use? Either you want to use 80 or 85, which one would you rather use? Well, they aren't answering, so let's go with 80.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take a look at an 80%. So I'm going to then move over to our last section. Our last section is the grain marketing piece. So that's this upper right-hand corner. For now, I'm only going to look at this harvest futures and basis information, the very top line. So what gets entered in this area is going to be what you could realistically sell your crop for at harvest time. We are taking a look at 2018 corn. I think that those futures, December 18 futures, are trading about $3.95 right now. As I update that, it's going to throw in a few numbers here. An accurate basis level might be 30 under or so, or do we have any input on what a good basis level might be?
What do you guys want to use there for basis level? What's it trending at? Is it about 30?
No, probably more like 35.
35, okay.
Okay. So I've gone ahead and updated that, and you can see we've got some numbers changing down here below, and we'll take a look at those in a moment. We will come back to this grain marketing section. The next two pieces we'll look at is we can enter in cash forward contracts here. So if you've made any forward sales for the 2018 year, we'd enter in an approximation of the bushels per acre there, and then at what weighted average cash price those would have been sold at, and those will be calculated into our examples as well. I'm going to go ahead and say that we haven't made any sales for our 2018 year yet, but I am going to come over here to our green button again over on the left-hand side. I'm going to hit the update button. And then what I'm going to do is scroll down and actually take a look at what my scenario looks like here. So across the top, you'll see these are my yield scenarios. So we have a number of percentages across the top. The top numbers are percentage of APH, and then the bottom numbers are actual yield. So for example, this bolded box is 100% of my 200 bushel APH. And then over here on the left-hand side are all the different price scenarios. And you can see this middle box is set at $3.60. Where that $3.60 is coming from is the $3.95 futures and the 35 under basis that we entered up in our grain marketing section. So it's coming at $3.60. I can go ahead and edit my bottom and my top boxes if I wanted to make this spread of prices different than what we have here today. If I didn't think 275 was a very accurate or realistic scenario, I could go ahead and move that. Same with the $4.20. It's going to automatically adjust all the prices on the left-hand side, so you don't have to type those all in manually. I'm going to leave them where they're at for now. And if I were to simply just look at if my harvest price doesn't change and if I produce a crop, the profitability of my my operation is sitting right at about $55 per acre today. You can see when I actually hover over that box, another pop-up appears here, and that pop-up is giving me all the details for this particular scenario. For example, I have my income from sales, which tells me that I haven't sold anything, and so I have zero income from sales, but all of my unsold production is valued at $720. In this scenario, I don't have any crop insurance indemnity, so it's a pretty simple calculation here. We're simply looking at our $720 of unsold production and looking at our costs over here on the left-hand side. Do we have any questions on the kind of the meat and the potatoes of the matrix and the scenarios that we're looking at here?
Can you switch that to 85% and just see what changes in the graph?
Absolutely. That was the next thing I wanted to take a look at here. I will point out right before I do that, though, you can see that my crop insurance cost did pulled in at about $5.65. When I change this to 85% and hit update, that premium does update, and you can see this is how the scenario changed as well. So worst case scenario with an 85% policy looks like about a $72 per acre loss up to a $336 per acre gain. If I were to look at my 80% policy and go back here, I've got a little bit more risk in that scenario, up to $105 per acre loss in that scenario and a $343 per acre gain. What I can also do with the profit matrix is I can actually save these different scenarios. So right now I did go back to our 80% scenario. If I scroll down to the bottom of the tool, we have a number of what we call positions within the tool. So I can save a screenshot of what's above to these different position slots. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this to position 1. If I hit go, you can see that scenario now saved itself down here. I'm just going to name this 80% RP and hit my save button. Then if I were to scroll back up to the top, go ahead and change my crop insurance back to the 85% level, hit my update button, I can do the same thing and I can easily compare different scenarios. And now I've saved a screenshot of what that 85% policy looks like. One thing I failed to mention is we actually have our break-even prices down here below as well. So on an 85% policy with where prices are sitting right now, this operation would be looking at about a $3.36 break-even down here at the bottom in that scenario. Are there any other scenarios that we'd like to specifically take a look at or changes that you'd like to see?
If you enter on the marketing side, if you enter like if you have a hedging account and you have additional income, is there a place to put that hedge position?
We do have a method to track it. We have the ability to add options into this. I do not have the ability to add futures hedging, but I can add options of it, income.
Oh, okay. All right.
If you have that, I guess if you have a straight on hedge of, if we're selling 20 bushels per acre, or I guess it depends how many contracts you might have. If you had, I can't do the math in my head here right off the bat, but if we had 5 different contracts at so 25,000 bushels on a hedge, we could go ahead and at least add in our bushels per acre and a weighted average cash price, and that would but
yeah, that would work. Yep.
For example, if you were selling a July 19 futures or so, I think we're trading around 415. So if I had, that was the wrong place. Let's say we sold about, I don't know, 10% of our crop, so 20 bushels per acre. And at a weighted average, let's say we were hedging off the July 19, somewhere around that 415 price, I can go ahead and update that. And where I had a $48 per acre gain, it's now showing a $59 per acre gain.
Okay, yeah.
And you can see my income from sales then changed as well. Do we have folks on the phone that use options and would be interested in learning how to enter options into the matrix? Or I don't want to certainly go over that if that's not something that you feel you would use.
Not for me at this time, no.
Okay. When you can print out these scenarios as well. So if I scroll down to the bottom, I can actually print a matrix compare, and it will print all of the scenarios that I have created here. If I'm back up near my update button, I can use hit this printable matrix button. Let me see if I can populate that for us. And it puts the scenario on a nice, just kind of a nice document. I know we have folks that'll create this scenario and they might take that into their banker or hang it on hang it on your bulletin board, because we have our break-even prices here to kind of help us stay on target with maybe some of our marketings as well. So that is an option. This is, as I said, this scenario can be saved. You can come back into the tool and update this at any time throughout the crop year. You can create these for 2018, 2017, the different years as well. So those are the basic functionalities of the Ag Profit Oracle. I will point out real quick that if you do get access to this tool and ever have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to myself or reach out to Tom. We also have a help button within the Ag Profit Oracle up here on our blue screen. If I hit the help button, it'll actually bring me to a number of tutorials and resources. So if you're in here working with the tool and you happen to get hung up, we do have a number of resources that you can use as well. That, I think, pretty well wraps up kind of the nuts and bolts of the tool. I'm happy to take a look again at some other scenarios or answer any questions that anyone might have. Or Tom, if there was anything that I didn't cover that you'd like me to take a look at, I'm happy to do that as well at this time.
You did perfect for what I was looking for these guys, but if they have any questions or anything more, you guys got anything?
I don't know. That was a good overview.
I think it's a really nice tool. I don't know if you guys got anything else like this out there from any of your other vendors, like bankers or whatever, but it sure is a nice tool that I know of to use. So I appreciate Kristen in doing this, and appreciate you guys attending. Again, if you don't have any more questions, we'll probably end the webinar. So
Great.
Right,
Yes,
good?
thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Tom. Enjoyed meeting everyone. Have a great and safe rest of your week.